What's up, everybody? This is me, Doc G, coming at you with Sports Direct. Good to have everybody here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Right click on, save the video if you're on TT, whatever it may be. But also, I want you to leave a comment, right? Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about these takes that I'm going to talk about? The NBA, the All-Star game, the All-Star weekend, the comments that were made by Ron Harper, the comments that were said by LeBron James. All these things happening, MJ winning Daytona 500, and so on. Also, we're going to talk about the latter part of the NBA season. What's going to happen with the Knicks? What's going to happen with the other teams? And we're going to close it off by giving my take of what I think about this year's NBA All-Star game. But I digress. Make sure you come back and stay tuned to watch Doc G Sports Direct.
Yeah, that's IEG Productions. Yeah, represent go Doc G Sports Direct. Let 'em know. Right. 2, 3, drop it. Throwing the hammer like Thor, let a big kick flip.
Right. So, welcome to Doc G Sports Direct. Glad to have you here. So now, first off, what we're going to be talking about is, let me see, let's talk about KD's comments, right? Because KD, he made some comments, and I believe he was talking about two specific players, Luka and Jokic, who are both European players that came on and are playing in the NBA, and not only playing, they're racking up them MVPs, racking up them scoring titles, racking up record after record, breaking record after record, being phenomenal players. Generational players, but at the same time, they're not taking it seriously, which goes to show how great they can be if they really took it seriously. And there were some comments that were made by KD, how he said that they weren't taking the All-Star game seriously, because quite frankly, the All-Star game is for the fans here in the United States, and those are the ones who benefit, right? Those are the ones who see the stars play. They go into the cities that where predominantly Americans live, and those are the ones who get all the star treatment. And it's just, I guess, according to KD, they don't live up to the expectation. I mean, we saw them as dunks the last All-Star game, shooting from half court, not even caring, right? And the format was different this year, all right? So the question isn't about skill. We know that they're elite. The question is perception. KD leans into the drama and does with the media, amplifying everything he says. But also, before the All-Star game, it was found out that he had a burner account. Now, I'm not one to gossip. I am not with that. But I'm just saying, it's out there. People are talking about it. That he had a burner account that found out before the All-Star game tip-off. And yeah, I don't know. All right, so now I digress to the next topic. Also, staying with the All-Star game. I'm not a fan of the Brandy song, but, you know, it was good. It was very good. But I'm old-fashioned, so I want the old-fashioned Star Spangled Banner. That's just me. But she did a great rendition, right? Sounds great. It will be great on her album. That's her style. I grew up in the 90s, so I know her style, and this is pretty much falls into it. I've seen her do the original take of the Star Spangled Banner, and it was great. So I would like to hear what she has to say on why she chose that rendition as opposed to the original melody, the original take of the Star Spangled Banner. All right, that's a little aside. Let me know what you think about the Star Spangled Banner sung by Brandy, also about KD's comments. Let me know what you think about those two things. So the next thing is, I mean, they had an All-Star Friday event. To be quite honest, I didn't really look into that. You know, I'm not a big fan of the, I mean, I watched it before when they had Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, you know, those stars. But as far as who was the rookies versus sophomores, I mean, I'll look into it. Let me see. All right, so as far as the All-Star game for Friday, the celebrity game, we have Team Giannis won with Roman Flynn named the MVP. I'm not sure who that is, but they won. The Rising Star game 1 was won by Team Melo versus Team Austin. Team Melo won. Also, Team Vince beat Team T-Mac for the Rising Stars game 2. Rising Star Championship was USA won versus DG Edgecombe, named the MVP for the Rising Stars. All right, so they were keeping that same format as far as the Rising Stars versus the World, the NBA HBCU Classic, Hampton versus North Carolina. That was later on at night. All right, so that was it with that. Now we can go to the Saturday night festivities. All right, let's talk about that. All right, and just to talk about it a little bit while it loads up. I mean, we can talk about the All-Star game. A lot of people said that it was previously to this weekend that it was very low-key. People didn't really tune into it. It's not as fun. And me growing up in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, it was a different atmosphere. Obviously, I was younger. I was more excited about these players who were older than me at the time, so I looked up to a lot of them. And just to see them play was a privilege. Kobe versus Michael. It was set in New York at that time in the year 2000, I think it was. That was a great All-Star game. I'm sorry, in 1998, that was a great All-Star game. I mean, you saw them the year before. In 1996, when it was Jordan and Shaq on the same team, I think MJ won the MVP in that All-Star game. And it was just good just to see that amount of talent, and they played, and you knew that it was lighthearted, but it wasn't like it was a playoff type of atmosphere. If they got close, right? In 2003, when AI just took over and Stephon Marbury, that which is great. If it gets close by the end of the game, so be it. Whoever hits the most shots, but there is some contest to the shots. They're putting their hands up, they're moving their feet. They're not just opening the lanes like they were in the last couple of All-Star games. But this one, had a different take. I think another one that really stood out besides Bud Webb and Dominique, Sean Kemp, all these other dunkers that was just amazing to watch. Not only in the game, but in the All-Star dunk contest. Right? Then before that, we had Julius Erving that really set the stage and really raised the bar. And now we came to the 2000s. We had Kobe winning, Vince Carter setting the bar higher. Then you had the other players that really lifted it up. And then McClung last year, right, or the last 3 years, that has been holding it down. Even though he wasn't an NBA player, his dunks were phenomenal, right? They were amazing. And so this year, we were expecting, okay, we got mostly NBA players. McClung did not come back to defend his title. He said, I won 3, I'm good, right? And looking at the competition, he would have won 4. I mean, the competition was nowhere near his ability. And so let's go to the dunk contest. So before we go to that, let's talk about the State Farm 3-point shooter. Damian Lillard from the Trailblazers did join notable achievements, joined Larry Bird and Craig Hodges as the only 3-time winner, and he won the State Farm 3-point contest. The AT&T Slam Dunk Contest, we'll get to who the winner was. But before we get to the winner, I do want to talk about some of the dunks, right? Because some of them were just atrocious. Right, all right, so I'm going to start from the bottom. First of all, Jackson Hayes from the LA Lakers decided to do the dunk contest. First, he's a big man. He's 7-footer, so it's going to look kind of weird. But he does have some jumping ability. But the 7-footers, once you get to 7 feet, you got to have either higher jumping ability, else it just looks a little bit off. As most experienced participant, the 7-foot center struggled to find a rhythm, which, would be expected for a 7-footer. His dunks first attempt was a simple one-handed jam, and judges found underwhelming, right? It was like, okay, we do that in the layup line. Right? His best dunk was a self-lob that he tapped the ball to himself and put it underneath his leg before finishing. It wasn't enough to advance. All right, so he gave it a shot. Then Jace Richardson of the Orlando Magic, the son of a 2-time dunk champion, Jason Richardson, made his debut with a high-flying energy dunks. He successfully completed a 2-hand reverse windmill off a bounce lob. On the second attempt, he took a scary fall, hitting his head after missing a 360 lob, which was embarrassing. Why are you doing that? He didn't just miss it. His hand hit the backboard. That was bad. That was really bad. All right. We shouldn't be getting hurt in dunk contests. We got to be professional. All right. Even McClung, who wasn't NBA, was very professional with his dunks. All right. Next, Carter Bryant, San Antonio Spurs, runner up. The Spurs rookie entered as a favorite and delivered the night's only perfect score. First round, he started with 360 with a leg kick out, followed by a powerful windmill off the self-lob. He earned the high round 49.2. Second round, scored a perfect 50 on his first attempt a high lob between the leg dunk. However, he struggled with misses on his first attempt. A planned 180 reverse gem eventually settled on a basic 360 and only scored a 43. All right, so yeah. Now, Kassad Richardson, Miami Heat winner, known as Showtime Johnson, won the combination of power and tribute to his Bay Area roots. First round, he famously jumped over rapper E40 while posing with the one hand behind his head with a 47.4 score. He followed it with a baseline reverse dunk to secure the spot in the finals. Final round, he threw himself a lob from the baseline, caught it, and between the legs in a reverse jab for 49.6. He sealed the victory with a one-hand windmill from outside the free throw line. All right, so that's how he ended it, which is pretty good. You know, you could look at the, as I'm talking, you should be seeing all of the highlights. Now that you see my forehead. All right, so hopefully you guys liked it. I thought it wasn't as good as McClung. It wasn't as wowing as McClung. People falling. You gotta do better. We need Ja. We need the other players who can jump out this gym, and they're there. So we need you guys to come and step up. All right, so that was it for Saturday. Yeah. Then of course we had the other events. Aside from the 3-point, we also had the skills event. We'll talk about that. My New York Knicks, right? They did fairly well with this. Right, we had the Kia Shooting Stars Team Knicks, featured Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns and legend Allen Houston. They took that W. Of course, Allen Houston, right? Knick legend, held it down, and they pulled off and won. So yeah, so that was it. Now let's talk about the NBA All-Star.
And the world defensively,
right, so
feeling good
USA
right now.
Stars. We had a few
Step away, Holmgren, Booker,
Stars,
drive, kick, Edwards, good
right
look.
off the bat, this was better, different format.
Double penetration, 2 feet in the paint there by Booker, finding Edwards to tie this bad boy up. Shot clock off, 5 seconds left.
Where he wants this.
Wembanyama, bounce it.
So we're gonna see
Someone
what
has to get it off.
In the
It's
first game, we had USA Stars versus Team World.
on top of Team World here.
Switch everything.
You almost concede the 3.
Yes. You're talking like a point guard, though. I know what you're doing back in Jersey.
In overtime to secure the win after Anthony Edwards forced an extra period with a clutch shot. In game 2, USA Strike versus USA Stars. Again, was close. The Aaron Fox drilled a buzzer-beating 3-pointer to give the veteran Stripes a team victory. So we had the Stripes win, and we had the Stars beat Team World. So Team World lost, the Stars lost, the Stripes won. And then they won again against Team World. So the Stripes also show, listen, we can beat Team World, the Stars can beat Team World. So right now the USA team Team World got beat twice by the USA team. All right, so that's a good thing. So shout out to USA. All right, USA. Okay, so they won. They got to show, okay, we can beat the world team, right? Team 1 and Team 2, right? So they let it be known. It was close. It was tight, down to the wire, but they were able to do it. USA Stripes won 48-45. Kawhi Leonard dominated his home floor, scoring 31 points, including 15 straight, hitting a step-back 3-pointer with 3.5 seconds left to send the Stripes to the final. Of course, was the Stripes versus the Stars. Fantastic. Now we got the young versus the old, which was devastating to see. Well, actually no, right? The Stars show, listen, we are the young ones now. We are the ones in charge right now, so give us the reins. The young Stars took advantage their early loss with an emphatic blowout. Tyrese Maxey led the game with 9 points. Anthony Edwards sparked a 15-0 run to seal the title. All right, so they won one, which, I mean, you gotta say, they both were, you know, you had, it was a tie. I mean, if you think about it, right, USA Stars beat Team World. All right, so they have one win. Then USA Stripes beat USA Stars. Now, the Stars are 1, and the Stripes are 1-0. Then the Stripes beat Team World. Now they're 2-0. All right, and so then the Stars then beat the USA, beat the World. All right, so they won, and then they beat the USA team, the USA Stars. So the Stripes and the Stars ended up even, 2-1. The one who really lost out was the World, because they lost 1 game and 2 games, so they were 0-2. Meanwhile, the Stars and the Stripes were 2-1. So that goes to show, that does, I mean, if you think about KD's comment that he made earlier, think about KD's comment. This does go to show that yes, the world team, they know how to score. But can they beat the USA team? The answer is no. They lost 0-2, a complete sweep. So that goes back to KD's claim. Listen, and you can't say the young ones won it. Slow your roll. It was an even record, 2-1. Stripes won 2, lost 1. Stars won 2 and lost 1, and they lost against each other. So there was deadlock even, but they beat the world team, and the world team didn't show up. They didn't show up, right? They gave a good run, but they lost back to back. So they couldn't finish it. They couldn't seal the deal. All right. So that's my take, is that Team World has the capability, but didn't want to give it in. But when Wembanyama shows you, he got to hold it down. He got to get more play time. He got to lead the ranks. Karl Anthony Towns also showing, even though he was born in America, he's kind of like me, born here, family from DR. You got the same thing going on. I understand it. I did play in Dominican Republic as well. So you want to show out, okay? You want to show for your country. They don't have enough representation, so it'd be good to show the Dominican. I understand, right? Good. I had no problem with him playing on the world team. Do your thing, brother. Right? Dominicano. All right. So next thing that we're going to talk about. All right. Let me look on my list here. What we're talking about. I mean, it's just to go back on it. It's not a big deal. I think Karl Anthony Towns is doing his thing. All right. And we shouldn't look at it as, he was hopping off to something else. He was representing his country, that I think is needed. We need to represent, our countries, especially if they're underrepresented, and to have him on there allowed for our country to be showcased in a positive light. And I appreciate that, as a person who has Dominican heritage, with both my parents being born from there and still having family there, it's very good to have that representation. All right. Mad love, mad respect. All right. So after the game, after the All-Star game, we had a comment that was made by LeBron James. They asked him, right? So LeBron addressed the state of things, expectations, pressures, and leadership. At this point, he's more than a player. That's true to say. Right? He's institutional. He's speaking from 2 decades of dominance. The Lakers are always under the spotlight, so every comment is magnified. But you can't deny that LeBron James controls the narrative of the league. Right? So LeBron James is controlling. As far as he is there, he's the spotlight. Right? If you go to the games, it costs about $300 a pop to be in the nosebleed section because he's coming to town. And that's just the way it is, right? He's a marquee player. Regardless of his age, he's still bringing the numbers. He's not an old-timer on the bench that can't move. He can still jump out the gym. He can dunk. He can shoot, right? He's still LeBron James, but he's an older LeBron James, which means that he's not at his prime version self. He's not at where he's jumping out of the ceiling, right? Feet over your head, but his waistline is right there, right? He's flying over you, but not as high, right? He can play defense, but not as hard, right? He can go 32 minutes instead of 48 minutes, right? He's still giving you all the things that he can in a much condensed package, which is still better than 80% of the league. So you can't count him out. He's at least top 15 to 20 in the NBA right now at 41. That's amazing. And that's you got to give him his flowers for that he's doing this thing at this age and still doing great. I still go by the fact, because of his age, because what he does, and because of who he is, right? He does control some of the game's flow, and because of that, it may hinder some of the other players. It may put them in a sense where they say, okay, I can't shoot, I got to give it to LeBron, and that makes them hesitant. This guy's a legend, I got to play good. So then they second guess their move. They don't play the game. So when he's in the game with these other players who are younger, they don't play as good sometimes. And it's because they don't want to mess up in front of the legends. They don't want to look stupid in front of them. So, that can bring a team down. As opposed when he was not there, they were playing young and free, right? Mistakes and all, they played through it, and they played as a unit. And that's one of my things that you have to watch out with LeBron. It's good to have another veteran with him on the court that is able to hold their own and be confident enough to pick up the team when needed, when LeBron can't. And that's hard to find in the NBA now. So what's going to happen next year with him, we don't know. And like he said in his comment, he has no clue if he's going to retire. He has no clue if he's going to play for a different team. He will like to end, to retire in LA You know, that's his main goal, is to retire in LA, but who knows what the future holds. All right. So now, another comment that was made, all right, I guess I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but they asked LeBron James a question about Israel, and I was just telling him, Shema Israel. That's what I was just saying. You know, listen. And the other thing that was Kyrie, he was saying people not asking the right questions. Everything is just, Kyrie said they're not asking the right questions. There's just cookie cutter questions to set up an agenda, to set up a point. And Kyrie, just be careful what you're saying. We want you back on Dallas. I want to see you playing. I want your skill set on the court. Guard what you say, please. Guard what you say. All right. I'm glad that he didn't go. He said it. I don't want to go far because I want to play ball. I'm glad he had that in mind. But he does want to say stuff. And when he retires, he's going to unload. All right. So, yeah, the next thing is Chris Paul. Man, Chris Paul retirement. He announced that he's going to retire right before the All-Star weekend. And this was the whole thing, that he was sent home. You know, he was sent home during an away game. Right? It was middle of the night. They said, go home. So the LA Clippers felt that he was too much of a hindrance, that he was too much of a problem. So they told him to pack it up. Right? They told him to pack it up, that he was causing too much of a problem, which was not fair to him. Having some camera issues. Okay. Right? Have some camera issues. All right, but let's do that segment again. All right. So CP3, you know, he was sent home, and after he was sent home, he was treated not in the best light. And a couple of other announcers were saying that this just wasn't fair. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He's in top 10 in steals, top 10 in assists, right? He scored 20,000 points. He's the two-time gold medalist. He was the president of the Players Union. He set himself up in high regard, and to be tossed like yesterday's garbage was horrible. A lot of the announcers say, and I happen to agree with that. I think that he should have been treated, if he was a problem, say, okay, listen, stay home for this, or we set up away games. When we come back, we're going to have a discussion. All right. And then plan on, listen, we want you to retire because we're going to kick you out for the rest of the league. We can't match up. We can't go eye to eye. You know, we can either trade you or you can retire, you know, because it's just not working out. And that would have been it. He would have stayed home. He was in the injured list, right? And then talk about it after, right? Not send him home like he was clubman and he caused a fight that made the team look bad, right? That he had to be sent home that night. No, you could have done it in a professional way. This is a grown man. Treat him as such, right? Not like a high schooler that got in trouble, right? So, and that was, which I think kind of led to his retirement. He said, you know what, I'm going to retire. That's it. I'm not going to let my legacy be tarnished anymore by this team. And so then he's gonna hang it up, call it quits. And, you know, one thing that I do have a gripe with is that, man, that would have been crazy to have him, Kobe Bryant, and Dwight Howard in their prime together. And it was shut down by David Stern. And that would have been the craziest team if that would have been allowed, to have them all on the same team with Kobe Bryant in his prime. The Mamba mentality in full force, where they got them all locked in. They would have been playing so well, so good. It would have put them on a different level. They probably would have won not 2, but just 3, 4 championships. Right? Who knows what would have been possible? And that's a great what-if story if it would have been allowed to happen. See, you understand, the teams all agreed, and yet when they signed, it was denied by the commissioner, David Stern. So it wasn't the fact that it was impossible to happen. It did happen. It was just blocked. And that's one of the things to think about. And I wish it would have happened if it was possible. All right, so shout out and flowers to CP3, Chris Paul, for having a fantastic career. You know, I myself, former basketball player, wish I would have even had 10% of that career, and you lived it out to the fullest. Championship or not, he's one of the greats. Top 75, did his thing. Right, salute. All right, let's go to the next thing. All right, so there's a couple of things. When I first wrote this down, you know, it was great to see that the Michael Jordan won another championship, so to say. His NASCAR team won Daytona 500. which is a big race for the NASCAR world. I don't follow that, but it was a big race, and his team won, right? And this comes off how it turned out was that the car that was in 4th place, and in the last lap, it managed to push ahead and win first. So that was a great comeback. All right, sounds like a Jordan story anyway. And on top of that, you know, we found out that he was in a legal dispute with NASCAR that he also won, that opened up something about charters that allow, you know, different rules and things to go through for the charters and the teams and the cars. All right, so I'm not too clear on that story, but he won that in court. Then he won the Daytona 500. So shout out to MJ, and that was great, and that was great to see. That was great to see him win another title. You know, he was hugging that trophy like he was hugging it in his first NBA game, and then he ended up saying, you know, this is great, this is sweet. You know, it brings me back to winning that first championship with the Bulls, and that was great to see. You know, that was a good light on MJ. All right, so let's just keep winning. All right, now the next thing I'm going to talk about is like how the Lakers are doing, how they're doing as far as their place in the NBA. All right, so let's look at their stats. All right, so the NBA, we have a couple of storylines. We have Jason Tatum's decision. What is he going to do right after the All-Star break? Is he going to come back? Don't come back. One, I'm a Knicks fan. Don't come back. Give us a chance to win. Right? You can come back. You already won one. Relax. Take it easy. No, I'm joking. That has nothing to do with it. If you come back, the Knicks are going to win regardless because they're great. All right, but Jason Tatum is deciding, you know, whether to run back, and, you know, based off the injury that he has, he should take his time because he's great and he's good. You don't want to come back and be half a player and then kind of risk yourself being re-injured or not healing to your 100%. We want you back as healed as possible. Okay? We want to see the best stuff. We want to see Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown at their best. All right, and then the second thing now is OKC at full strength. Right, so right now they ripped through the 24-1 start, and we're comparison to the 73 Warriors. But on the flip side, they began to lose some of the games. There was some injuries. Can they continue their dominance? Right, and now Denver is creeping up right behind them. They're starting to get, starting to steam forward in the West. They're starting to knock people out. And we had the crazy trade between James Harden going to Cleveland. This caused some problems, because Cleveland is going to be a crazy connection. We have Donovan Mitchell with the new backcourt. Running partner is James Harden, and their honeymoon is blissful. The Cavs are undefeated in 3 games with Harden and are displaying a different dynamic. So the East is starting to look hard. The Hornets are humming. They're starting to get their things together, and they're surprised that the Hornets have done this without a major acquisition at the trade deadline. They developed into a strictly result of the in-house growth and obviously the immediate impact of Knuppel, a favorite for the Rookie of the Year. So we'll see. It's him versus the other player from the Dallas. All right, you know, we have those 2 players, those 2 rookies. Let's see who is going to win. And then the Bucks is trying to bounce back. All right, they lost 9 out of their 10, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo gave his weird vibe leading to the trade deadline while tending to a calf injury. Giannis wasn't swapped at the deadline, and the best the Bucks could do is to improve their roster was shift through the bargain bin and add some players on the cheap. All right, so I mean, we all know what's going to happen. They're trying to tank the year to get a good draft pick, and then probably trade Giannis at the end of the year. That's probably what's going to happen. Nothing more, nothing less. All right, and the MVP race. I mean, I don't really look at that. I mean,